The massive space station Nexus Prime floated like a metal city in the darkness of space. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its many ports. Inside the Great Council chamber, beings from across the galaxy gathered for the most important meeting in centuries. Commander Kang Day sat in the small human section, watching the chaos unfold around him. For 5 long years he had served as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. 5 years of trying to prove that humans deserved respect. 5 years of being ignored, laughed at, or dismissed as primitives who had barely learned to travel between stars. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Alien voices mixed together in a symphony of fear and anger. The Glub delegation, their transparent blue bodies shimmering under the lights, huddled together in their water-filled seats. Their large eyes darted around the room like frightened fish. The crystalline shard representatives stood perfectly still, but the high-pitched sounds they made told Day they were deeply worried. At the center of it all sat the Korthak war chief, a massive creature covered in thick gray hide. His forearms gestured wildly as he spoke to his advisors. Even the peaceful Yulani, with their flower-like faces, seemed disturbed by what was happening. The reason for all this fear had a name: the Vrex Empire. The main display showed star maps marked in angry red. System after system had fallen to the insect-like warriors. The Vrex were efficient killers who swept through space like a plague. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not use. Entire civilizations had vanished before their advance. A deep gong echoed through the Yao chamber. The council speaker, an ancient being whose species Day had never learned to pronounce, called for order. The noise slowly died down as hundreds of alien eyes turned toward the center platform. That was when the Vrex ambassador entered. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall on 6 powerful legs. Its body was covered in black armor that looked like it had grown from its skin. Forearms ended in hands with razor-sharp claws. But it was the head that made even hardened warriors step back. Massive mandibles clicked together as it spoke, and compound eyes reflected the chamber lights like dark mirrors. The ambassador's voice came through the translation system as a cold, mechanical sound. I bring words from the Vrex High Command. We have claimed the systems known as the Outer Rim. These worlds now belong to the Empire. Any species that tries to stop us will be destroyed. The chamber erupted in panic. Delegates shouted in their native languages while others fled for the exits. The Glub representative made bubbling sounds of distress. Several of the smaller species simply fainted. The Korthak war chief slammed his fist on his desk, creating a sound like thunder. The Outer Rim contains 17 populated worlds. Billions of beings live there. You cannot simply take them. The Vrex ambassador's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. We do not take, we conquer. There is a difference. Those who submit will be allowed to live as slaves. Those who resist will die. These are the only choices. Commander Day felt his hands tighten into fists. He had visited 3 of those worlds during his time with the Council. Good people lived there. Families, children, beings who had never hurt anyone. They did not deserve to become slaves or corpses. The Council speaker raised one of his many tentacles for silence. The Galactic Council does not recognize your claim. These worlds are protected by our laws. Your laws mean nothing to the strong, the Vrex replied. We have given you our terms. You have 72 hours to evacuate your people from those systems. After that, anyone who remains will be considered an enemy of the Empire. The threat hung in the air like poison. Day looked around the chamber and saw defeat in every face. These beings had lived in peace for so long they had forgotten how to fight. They had laws and treaties and committees, but no weapons that could stand against the Vrex war machine. The silence stretched on until Day could not bear it anymore. He stood up slowly, knowing what he was about to do would probably end his diplomatic career. Council speaker, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the quiet chamber. Earth requests permission to address this crisis. The sound that followed was not quite laughter, but close enough to make Day's cheeks burn. Delegates from dozens of species turned to stare at him with expressions ranging from amusement to pity. The Korthak war chief actually chuckled, a sound like rocks grinding together. The human wishes to speak, the war chief said loudly. Perhaps he has a solution we mighty warriors have missed. More laughter rippled through the chamber. The Vrex ambassador turned his compound eyes toward Day with what seemed like mild curiosity. "Commander Day," the council speaker said with obvious reluctance, "you may speak. Though I remind you that Earth has been part of this council for only 5 years. Perhaps it would be better to let more experienced beings handle this matter." Day walked to the speaking platform, ignoring the whispers and chuckles that followed. He had prepared for this moment, though he had hoped it would never come. "Honored delegates," he began, "Earth offers its full military support to defend the Outer Rim systems. We have ships, weapons, and soldiers ready to fight." The laughter that erupted was louder than before. The Korthak war chief actually wiped tears from his eyes. "Oh, this is precious," the war chief said between chuckles. "The soft mammals think they can fight the Vrex. Tell me, human, how many wars has your species won against beings like us?" Day felt his jaw tighten. "More than you might think, war chief. Against other soft mammals, perhaps," the Korthak replied. "But real warriors? Beings with claws and armor and the will to kill? Your species talks about peace and cooperation. You know nothing of real warfare." The Vrex ambassador studied Day for a long moment. "I have read about your species, human. You are new to the stars. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are small. What could you possibly do against the might of the Empire?" Day met the alien's gaze without flinching. "We could fight. That's what we do best." This brought fresh waves of laughter from the assembled delegates. Even some of the peaceful species seemed amused by the idea of humans in battle. The council speaker called for order, though he seemed to be struggling not to smile himself. "Commander Day, while Earth's offer is touching, I think it would be best if we focused on more realistic solutions. Perhaps negotiation or evacuation would be wiser choices." "Evacuation is surrender," Day said firmly, "and negotiation only works if both sides want peace. The Vrex have made their position clear." The war chief leaned forward in his seat. "Young human, I have fought in 100 battles. I have seen species that could tear you apart with their bare hands fall before the Vrex. What makes you think your soft flesh and weak bones could succeed where others have failed?" Day was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Because we've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know every trick, every strategy, every way to win or lose a battle. We've had more practice at war than any species in this galaxy. Practice against other humans," the Glub representative said through his translator, his voice still shaking with fear. "Not against real predators." "Maybe," Day admitted. "But at least we're willing to try. That's more than anyone else here seems ready to do." The chamber fell silent again. Day could see the truth in their eyes. They were afraid, and their fear was making them weak. They would rather give up 17 worlds than risk their own comfortable lives. The council speaker finally broke the silence. "The council appreciates Earth's offer, but we must decline. We cannot ask a young species to sacrifice themselves in a hopeless cause. We will focus our efforts on evacuation and humanitarian aid." Day nodded slowly. He had expected this answer, but it still hurt to hear it. "I understand, Council Speaker. In that case, Earth will act independently." "Independently?" the Vrex ambassador asked, his mandibles clicking with interest. "Earth does not recognize Vrex authority over the Outer Rim worlds," Day said clearly. "We will defend them with or without Council approval." The war chief shook his massive head. "This is madness. You will all die for nothing." "Maybe," Day replied. "But at least we'll die standing up." He turned and walked toward the exit, ignoring the murmurs and whispers that followed him. At the door he paused and looked back at the assembly one last time. "When this is over," he said quietly, "remember that Earth offered to help. Remember that we were willing to fight when everyone else chose to run." As the chamber doors closed behind him, Commander Day activated his emergency communicator. The message was brief and coded, but its meaning was clear to anyone who received it on Earth. Council refuses assistance. Enemy advances in 72 hours. Recommend independent action. Authorization requested for Operation Guardian. The response came back within minutes from Admiral Park Jin herself. Authorization granted. Show them what humans do when innocent people are threatened. Make us proud, Commander. Day smiled grimly as he headed for his ship. The Galactic Council had made their choice. Now it was time for humanity to make theirs. 3. Days later, the galaxy would learn what happened when someone threatened people under human protection. The lesson would be one that no species would ever forget. The mining world of Kepler 442b hung in space like a brown jewel. 3 moons circled the planet, their surfaces covered with the giant machines that pulled rare metals from deep underground. On the planet below, 2 million beings from a dozen different species worked together in the great mining cities. Today, those cities were almost empty. News of the Vrex ultimatum had spread fast through the outer rim. Evacuation ships filled with families and workers streamed away from the planet. Like frightened birds, most people had already fled to safer worlds deeper in Council space. Only a few thousand remained, mostly those too poor to buy passage on the refugee ships. In the orbital control station, traffic controller Yim Hana watched the last civilian transport disappear into hyperspace. The Zephyrian captain had promised to take the remaining refugees to a safe world. Now Kepler 442b was truly abandoned, left to wait for whatever the Vrex would do to it. Hana should have been on one of those ships. Her supervisor had ordered all staff to evacuate 12 hours ago, but someone needed to monitor the defense satellites and keep the communication systems running. Someone needed to be there to send a final message if the worst happened. The planet's defenses were a joke. 6 old patrol boats that could barely handle pirates. A few dozen mining lasers that might scratch the paint on a real warship. Some missile platforms that were older than Hana herself. Against a full Vrex invasion fleet, they would last about as long as paper in a fire. The alarm system suddenly came to life, filling the control room with red light and warning sounds. Hana rushed to her instruments, her heart pounding as she read the sensor data. 200 ships had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The Vrex First Fleet stretched across space like a wall of metal death. Each ship was a kilometer or more in length, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. The flagship at the center was massive even by Vrex standards, its black hull bristling with enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Hana's hands shook as she activated the emergency broadcast system. This is Kepler 442b control to any ships in the area. The Vrex fleet has arrived. We count 200 enemy vessels approaching the planet. If anyone can hear this message, please tell our families that we tried to do our duty. She was about to shut down the transmitter when something impossible appeared on her sensors. A single ship had emerged from behind the largest moon. It was small compared to the Vrex vessels, only 300 meters long. But Hana recognized the design immediately from the database. It was a human destroyer, one of Earth's newest warships. The ship's communication system crackled to life. Kepler 442b control. This is Captain Lebo of the Earth Destroyer Soul's Pride. We are here to defend this system. Please maintain your position and continue monitoring. Hana stared at her screens in shock. 1 human ship against 200 Vrex warships. It was either the bravest thing she had ever seen or the most foolish. On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, Captain Lebo studied the tactical display with calm professional interest. His crew of 90 men and women worked quietly at their stations, running final checks on weapons and defense systems. "Sir," said Lieutenant Nam Gil from the sensor station, "the Vrex fleet is moving into attack formation. They're not even bothering to scan us properly. I don't think they consider us a real threat." Lee smiled grimly. "Good. Let them keep thinking that. What's our tactical situation?" 200 enemy ships, reported Lieutenant Commander Park, son from the weapons station. Most of them are heavy cruisers with plasma cannon arrays. The flagship appears to be a dreadnought class with particle beam weapons. They're spreading out to surround the planet. Any sign of ground invasion forces? Yes, sir, at least 50 troop transports in the rear of their formation. They're planning to take the planet intact. Lee nodded. Then we stop them here. Signal, the Vrex flagship. Let's be polite about this. The communication channel opened with a burst of static. The voice that came through was harsh and mechanical, speaking through a translation system. Unknown vessel, you are interfering with Imperial operations. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is Captain Lee Bo of the Terran Defense Force. Lee replied calmly. This system is under the protection of Earth. I order you to withdraw your fleet immediately. The sound that came back might have been laughter. One small ship against the might of the First Fleet. You mammals truly are as stupid as the reports claimed. You have 30 seconds to flee before we vaporize you. Lee looked around his bridge at his crew. Every face showed the same expression of quiet determination. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans could do. Tactical. Prepare for combat. Lee ordered. All hands. Battle stations. The Biwi, Soul's Pride transformed in seconds. Armor plates slid into position over the bridge windows. Weapon systems powered up with a deep humming sound that seemed to make the whole ship vibrate. The lights dimmed as power flowed to the military systems. Sir, Nam reported that the Vrex are opening fire. The first wave of enemy fire lit up space like a deadly light show. Plasma bolts and particle beams converged on the small human ship from dozens of different angles. It should have been the end of the battle before it truly began. Instead, something incredible happened. The Soul's Pride moved like a living thing, twisting and turning through the storm of energy weapons. The ship seemed to know where each shot would be before it was fired, sliding between plasma bolts with impossible precision. When a beam did come close, strange ripples appeared in the air around the ship as its shields bent the energy away. How are they doing that? Nam whispered in amazement as he watched the display. Human tactical computers, Lee explained as he watched the battle unfold. Our AI systems can track thousands of variables at once and predict enemy fire patterns based on their ship movements, weapon charge rates, and targeting systems. We know where they're going to shoot before they do. The Vrex fleet commander was clearly confused by what he was seeing. More ships opened fire, filling space with enough energy to destroy a small asteroid. But the human ship continued its impossible dance, dodging death by meters at every turn. Sir, Park reported from her weapons station, we have firing solutions on 63 enemy vessels. Fire, Lee ordered simply. The Soul's Pride unleashed its response with devastating efficiency. Railgun rounds accelerated to 15%. Of light speed streaked across space faster than the Vrex sensors could track them. Each tungsten projectile hit with the force of a small nuclear bomb, punching through armor that was supposed to stop anything. At the same time, fusion torpedoes launched from the destroyer's missile tubes. These weapons used technology that no other species had developed. They could phase through enemy shields by matching their energy frequency, appearing inside the target ship before detonating. The first Vrex cruiser to die simply came apart in a ball of fire and twisted metal. Then another. And another. Impossible, breathed Nam as he watched the sensor readings. Their shields aren't even slowing down our missiles. Different technology, Lee explained. Their shields are designed to stop plasma and particle weapons. They've never faced kinetic rounds at these speeds or phase weapons that can bypass their defenses entirely. The battle became a masterpiece of human tactical thinking. The Soul's Pride used the planet's gravity well to slingshot between enemy formations, striking fast and moving before the Vrex could respond. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver put the ship exactly where it needed to be. Within 20 minutes, 30 Vrex ships were nothing but debris and expanding gas clouds. Shatter. Enemy fleet tried to adapt, spreading out to avoid the human ship's hit-and-run attacks. But Lee had anticipated this move. The Soul's Pride suddenly stopped running and turned directly toward the Vrex flagship. All power to forward weapons, Lee commanded. Ram speed. The destroyer accelerated straight at the massive dreadnought, its railguns firing continuously. Tungsten rounds hammered the flagship's armor while fusion torpedoes phased through its shields to explode deep inside the hull. At the last second, when collision seemed certain, The Soul's Pride rolled beneath the dreadnought and unleashed every weapon it had into the enemy ship's less protected underside. The massive Vrex vessel shuddered, then broke in half as its power core exploded. The death of their flagship broke the Vrex formation completely. Ships scattered in all directions as their captains realized they were facing something they had never encountered before. These humans fought like no species they had ever known. By the time it was over, 63 Vrex warships were destroyed. The survivors fled into hyperspace, leaving behind their dead and their pride. On Kepler 442b, traffic controller Hannah stared at her instruments in total shock. In 47 minutes, a single human ship had achieved the impossible. The mighty Vrex First Fleet, terror of the galaxy, had been broken by 90 humans in a ship smaller than most of their cruisers. Captain Lee's voice came over the communication system, calm and professional as always. Kepler 442b control, this is Soul's Pride. The system is secure. You may begin recalling the refugee ships. Hannah found her voice after several tries. Captain Lee, how is this possible? There was a pause before Lee answered. We've been fighting. The great council chamber of Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. News of the Battle of Kepler 442b had reached every corner of the galaxy in less than 6 hours. A single human ship had destroyed 63 Vrex warships without taking any damage. The impossible had become reality. Admiral Park Jin stood at the center of the chamber, her blue uniform crisp and her expression calm. Beside her, Commander Kang Day translated her words for the various alien species that could not understand human speech. Behind them, a holographic display showed star maps marked with red dots. Each red dot was a Vrex defeat. Honored delegates, Jin began, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. You have seen what happens when humans are forced to defend innocent people alone. We prefer cooperation. We have always preferred working together. But we will not stand by while peaceful beings are murdered. The Glub representative's voice trembled through his translator. Admiral Jin, we appreciate what your people did at Kepler 442b, but surely that was just one lucky battle. The Vrex have conquered 47 different species. They are the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Admiral Jin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Fleet Commander Ho Yun, would you please show our friends the tactical reports? The main display changed, showing battle data from across the galaxy. While the Council had been meeting and arguing, human fleets had been fighting. The results were displayed in cold, clear numbers that no one could argue with. 14 separate battles, 14 human victories, 0 human defeats. The Shard representative made a sound like breaking crystal. This cannot be accurate. The Vrex Third Fleet had over 300 ships. You claim it was completely destroyed? Not just destroyed, corrected Captain Kim Soo, the fleet intelligence officer. Eliminated. Every single enemy vessel was either destroyed or disabled. We took no prisoners because none of them survived long enough to surrender. The silence that followed was heavy with shock and fear. These beings had lived their entire lives knowing that the Vrex were unstoppable. Now they were being told that humans had stopped them cold, not once but 14 times. The Korthak war chief leaned forward in his massive chair. His forearms were crossed, and his thick hide showed the scars of many battles. Explain this to me, human. The Vrex have fought for 1,000 years. They know every trick of warfare. How do you defeat them so easily? Kim Soo stepped forward. With respect, War Chief, they know every trick that other species use, but they have never faced humans before. We have been at war with ourselves for our entire recorded history. We have spent thousands of years learning every possible way to fight and win. Fighting other humans, the War Chief pointed out. Not real warriors with claws and armor. True, Kim Soo admitted. But our wars taught us something that your species never learned. We fight to win completely. Other species fight for territory or resources or honor. Humans fight to eliminate the threat permanently. Admiral Jin activated another display. This one showed human tactical doctrine, simplified for alien understanding. When other species fight, They try to capture enemy ships or force surrender. When humans fight, we destroy everything that threatens innocent people. We do not take chances with the lives we are protecting. The display showed the difference clearly. In typical galactic warfare, battles ended when one side retreated or surrendered. Ships were captured, prisoners were taken, and the defeated enemy could regroup and fight again later. Human warfare was different. Every enemy ship was targeted for complete destruction. Every weapon system was eliminated. Every threat was removed, permanently. It was not cruel or savage, it was simply thorough. The Yulani representative spoke in her musical voice. But surely you cannot win every battle. The Vrex have superior numbers. They have larger ships, they have more experience. Captain Kim Soo shook his head. Numbers mean nothing if your tactics are predictable. Ship size does not matter if your weapons cannot hit their target. Experience is worthless if you are fighting the wrong kind of war. What do you mean? Asked the Glub delegate. The Vrex fight like they have always fought, Kim Soo explained. They rely on fear, superior firepower, and overwhelming numbers. These tactics work against species that fight the same way they do, but humans developed our military technology specifically to defeat larger, stronger enemies. The display changed again, showing technical specifications that made several delegates gasp in surprise. Human ships were smaller than Vrex vessels, but they were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons that could penetrate any known armor or shield system. We learned long ago that it is better to hit first, hit hard, and make sure the enemy cannot hit back, Admiral Jin continued. Our ships are designed for speed and precision strikes. Our weapons are built to kill with one shot. Our tactics focus on destroying the enemy before they can adapt. The Vrex ambassador, who had been silent during the entire presentation, finally spoke. His mechanical voice carried a note that might have been fear. Your species fights like nothing we have encountered. You do not seek conquest or glory. You simply kill everything that threatens you. Not everything, Admiral Jin corrected. Only those who choose to be our enemies. We offered peace. We offered cooperation. The Vrex Empire chose war instead. And, now you will destroy us, the ambassador said quietly. That depends entirely on you, Jin replied. We do not want to destroy anyone. We want to protect innocent people and return to peace. But we will not allow the slaughter of peaceful beings to continue. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. The humans had not just won a few battles. They had changed the entire balance of power in the galaxy. The species that everyone had feared was now running from creatures they had dismissed as weak and primitive. The council speaker raised one of his tentacles. What are your terms, Admiral Jin? Simple, Jin replied. The Vrex Empire will cease all aggressive actions immediately. They will withdraw from all systems they have occupied in the past year. They will release all beings they have taken as slaves. And they will agree to binding treaties that prevent future expansion through conquest. And if they refuse, asked the Korthak war chief. Admiral Jin's expression did not change, but her voice carried absolute certainty. Then we will remove them as a threat to galactic peace, permanently. The Vrex ambassador's compound eyes reflected the chamber lights as he considered his options. Behind him, his bodyguards shifted nervously. Everyone in the chamber knew that the ambassador's next words would determine the fate of his entire species. The Empire will need time to consider these terms, he said finally. You have 24 hours, Admiral Jin replied. After that, human fleets will begin systematic elimination of all Vrex military assets. We will start with your border worlds and work our way toward your home system. The ambassador left the chamber without another word, his guards following close behind. As soon as they were gone, the remaining delegates began talking all at once. Fear, excitement, and hope mixed together in a dozen different languages. The council speaker called for order. Admiral Jin, what you are proposing could lead to the complete destruction of the Vrex Empire. Are you prepared for such an outcome? We are prepared for whatever outcome the Vrex choose, Jin answered. If they choose peace, we will help them learn to live without conquest. If they choose war, we will end their ability to threaten anyone ever again. She paused and looked around, the chamber at the assembled delegates. But understand this. Humanity will no longer tolerate the strong preying on the weak. Any species that chooses conquest over cooperation will face the same choice we have given the Vrex: peace or elimination. As Admiral Jin left the chamber, with her staff, the delegate sat in stunned silence. The galaxy had just changed forever. The age of conquest by superior force was over. The humans had seen to that. Now everyone had to decide which side of history they wanted to be on. The message was clear. Those who protected the innocent would have humanity as their allies. Those who threatened the innocent would face humanity as their enemy. And as the Battle of Kepler 442b had proven, no one survived facing humans in battle. The colony world of New Busan floated peacefully in the light of its yellow sun. Below the clouds, cities built by human settlers spread across green continents. 500,000 people from Earth had made this world their home, building farms and factories and schools for their children. Now those children were being loaded onto evacuation ships as fast as possible. Governor Yoon Hai stood in the planetary command center, watching the stream of refugee transports leaving the atmosphere. Her advisors had begged her to leave with the civilians, but someone had to coordinate the defense. Someone had to stay and make sure every human life was protected. The reason for the evacuation was approaching fast through space. The Vrex Grand Armada, 3,000 of the Empire's most powerful warships, had rejected humanity's ultimatum. Instead of surrender, they had chosen to make an example of the newest human colony. "Ma'am," called her aide from the communication station. "Admiral, Park Jin is requesting a direct channel." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the battleship Incheon rising. Admiral Jin looked tired but determined as she spoke from her command chair. "Governor Yoon, what is the status of the evacuation?" 90% complete, Yoon replied. "The last civilian ships will clear the atmosphere in 6 hours. But Admiral, your fleet only has 50 ships. The Vrex are bringing 3,000. Jin's smile was grim. "I know the numbers, Governor, but those numbers do not tell the whole story. How long can your command bunker hold out if the Vrex break through?" 2 weeks if they try to dig us out. Maybe less if they just decide to crack the planet open. "They will not get the chance," Jin promised. "Human military doctrine has a response for overwhelming enemy numbers. It is called the Swarm Protocol." Before Yoon could ask what that meant, the space sensors began screaming warnings. The Vrex Grand Armada had arrived. 3,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Each vessel was massive, bristling with weapons and armor. At the center of the fleet, the command dreadnought War's End stretched for 3 kilometers, its hull covered with enough firepower to destroy continents. On the bridge of War's End, War Prince Kazith studied the tactical display with satisfaction. His compound eyes reflected the light of the screens as he counted the human ships opposing him. 50 vessels against 3,000. The mammals had courage, he would give them that. But courage meant nothing against the might of the Grand Armada. "Communications," he ordered in his clicking voice. "Open a channel to the human commander." Admiral Jin's face appeared on his screen. Moments later, she looked calm despite facing impossible odds, which impressed Kazith despite himself. "I am War Prince Kazith of the Vrex Empire," he announced. "You are outnumbered 60 to 1. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." "I am Admiral Park Jin of the Terran Defense Force," she replied evenly. "You are attacking innocent civilians. Under our protection. Withdraw now or face the consequences." Kazith's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "What consequences could you possibly threaten us with? Your tiny fleet cannot hope to stop the Grand Armada." "You are about to learn why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy," Jin said simply. "We do not fight fair. We fight to win." The channel closed, leaving Kazith staring at a blank screen. The human's confidence was either admirable or insane. He would soon find out which. "All ships," he ordered. "Spread formation and prepare to attack. Show these mammals what happens when they challenge the Empire." The Vrex fleet spread out like a metal net, surrounding the planet and the small human force. From their perspective, it looked like the perfect tactical situation. The humans were trapped with nowhere to run, outnumbered by enemies on all sides. Admiral Jin watched the enemy formation develop with professional interest. "They are doing exactly what we hoped they would do," she told her bridge crew. "Commander, Choi Min, are your ships ready?" From the escort carrier Gwangju's Fury, Commander Choi's voice crackled over the communication system. "All drone bays are loaded and ready, Admiral. The swarm is prepared for deployment." "Excellent. All ships implement swarm protocol. Let them see what humans do when we are outnumbered." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. Instead of forming defensive lines or trying to fight the Vrex fleet directly, the human ships scattered in all directions. They appeared to be running away exactly as the Vrex had expected. War Prince Kazith ordered his ships to pursue and destroy the fleeing humans before they could escape. It was exactly the wrong decision. As the Vrex fleet spread out to chase the retreating human ships, Admiral Jin gave the order that would change galactic warfare forever. Release the swarm. From each human ship, a cloud of small objects launched into space. They looked like fighters at first, but they moved with coordination that no living pilot could match. 10,000 autonomous combat drones spread out across the battlefield, each one equipped with artificial intelligence that contained the tactical knowledge of humanity's greatest generals. The Vrex had never seen anything like it. The drones moved in perfect formation, adapting to every enemy maneuver in real time. When Vrex ships tried to target them, the drones predicted the attack patterns and moved to avoid them. When the enemy changed tactics, the entire swarm learned and adapted instantly. Each drone was small and fast, but they carried weapons designed specifically to kill large warships. Miniature fusion torpedoes that could phase through shields. Railguns that fired depleted uranium rounds at incredible speed. Plasma cutters that could slice through the thickest armor like butter. War Prince Kazith watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by enemies too small and fast to hit effectively. The drones attacked in coordinated waves, striking weak points that his ship's computers had never even identified as vulnerable. "Impossible," he hissed as another dreadnought exploded on his display. "How can such small weapons destroy our largest ships?" His tactical officer, a veteran of 50 battles, could only shake his head in bewilderment. "They know exactly where to hit us, my prince. It is as if they can see our blueprints." They could. Human intelligence had been studying Vrex ship designs for months, identifying every weakness and vulnerability. The combat drones had been programmed with this information, along with thousands of years of human tactical experience. They knew exactly how to kill Vrex warships with minimal effort. But the real genius of the swarm protocol was not just the drones themselves. It was how they worked together. Each drone shared information with all the others instantly. When one drone learned something new about enemy tactics, the entire swarm knew it within seconds. The Vrex found themselves fighting an enemy that learned and adapted faster than they could react. Every mistake they made was immediately exploited by thousands of combat drones acting as a single intelligent entity. War Prince Kazith tried every tactic he knew. He ordered his ships to form tight defensive formations, but the drones simply attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. He tried to retreat and regroup, but the swarm followed and harassed his fleet every step of the way. He even attempted to ram the human ships directly, but they danced away from his attacks while their drones continued the slaughter. In 4 hours, the Grand Armada was reduced to burning wreckage floating in space. 3,000 ships had become 3,000 funeral pyres, their crews dead and their weapons silent. War Prince Kazith's final transmission was sent to the Vrex homeworld as his flagship broke apart around him. "Do not engage the humans in open battle. They do not fight like any species we have encountered. They fight like death itself. Nothing can stop them. Nothing can save us." The message was received on the Vrex homeworld just as Admiral Jin was accepting the surrender of the few enemy ships that had survived by powering down their weapons and begging for mercy. Governor Yoon watched the aftermath from her command bunker, staring at sensor readings that seemed impossible. "Admiral, your casualty report shows 0 human losses. How is that even possible?" Jin's voice carried a note of satisfaction mixed with sadness. "Because we fight wars to end them, Governor. We do not take chances with the lives of the people. We protect Every wreck ship that came here intended to kill human civilians. We made sure none of them lived to carry out that intention. The news of the battle spread across the galaxy at light speed. The Vrex Empire's greatest fleet, the force that had conquered dozens of worlds, had been completely destroyed by 50 human ships and their swarm of combat drones. More importantly, it had been destroyed without a single human casualty. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. Humans did not just win battles, they won them perfectly, with a level of tactical sophistication that no other species could match. Though no age of Vrex conquest was over. The age of human protection had begun. The homeworld of the Vrex Empire had never seen a human before. Kroon Prime was a harsh world of black stone and red skies, where warrior castes had ruled for 1,000 years through strength and fear. Now, for the first time in their history, the Vrex were afraid. Ambassador Song Yu stepped off her shuttle onto the landing platform, flanked only by Commander Kang Day and 2 human marines. The gesture was both diplomatic and a show of confidence. Earth's representative had come to the heart of the enemy empire with minimal protection, proving that humans feared nothing the Vrex could do. The welcoming committee was massive. Hundreds of Vrex warriors lined the platform, their black armor gleaming in the dim red sunlight. At their head stood War Marshal Thekvar, the Empire's greatest military commander and the only general to survive the destruction of the Grand Armada. Ambassador Song Yu, the War Marshal said through his translator, his mechanical voice carrying obvious tension. The Imperial Council awaits your arrival. Song Yu nodded politely. Thank you, War Marshal. Before we begin negotiations, I want you to know that humanity takes no pleasure in what has happened. We came here hoping to prevent further bloodshed, not to gloat over your defeats. Tekvar's compound eyes studied her carefully. You speak of peace, yet your fleets have destroyed everything we sent against you. Our greatest warriors are dead. Our mightiest ships are scrap metal floating in space. What peace can exist between us now? The peace that comes from understanding. Song Yu replied. Walk with me, War Marshal. Help me understand your people, and perhaps we can find a way forward that does not require more death. The journey to the Imperial Palace took them through the great warrior city of Kroon. Song Yu observed everything with professional interest, noting the military architecture and the way Vrex society was organized around conquest and strength. Your people have built an impressive civilization, she commented as they passed a monument to past victories, but it is based entirely on taking what belongs to others. That is the way of the strong, Tekvar replied automatically, then paused. Or it was. Your species has shown us that we are not as strong as we believed. Strength comes in many forms, Song Yu said quietly. The Vrex are powerful warriors, but you fight the same way you always have. Humans learned long ago that the most dangerous enemy is the one who can change and adapt. They entered the great throne room where the Imperial Council waited. The chamber was vast and dark, with walls covered in the battle standards of conquered worlds. At the center, on a throne carved from black volcanic glass, sat Emperor Vexmar. The ancient ruler was enormous even by Vrex standards, his chitin scarred by countless battles. 4 arms as thick as tree trunks ended in claws that could tear through steel. But his compound eyes held something that no Vrex emperor had ever shown before: doubt. So, Vexmar rumbled as Song Yu approached. These are the humans who have broken the Empire's strength. You are smaller than I expected. Size is not everything, Your Imperial Majesty, Song Yu replied with a respectful bow. We have come to offer peace, not conquest. Peace, the Emperor repeated as if the word were foreign to him. Do you know what your peace will cost us? Our warriors live for battle. Our economy depends on tribute from conquered worlds. Our entire civilization is built on the principle that the strong rule the weak. Commander Kang Day stepped forward. With respect, Your Majesty, that principle has brought your people to the edge of extinction. In 6 battles, human forces have destroyed over 4,000 Vrex warships. We could have pressed our advantage and attacked your homeworld. Instead, we chose to come here and talk. The Emperor's mandibles clicked in what might have been bitter laughter. Yes, you could have destroyed us all. The question is why you did not. What do you gain from showing mercy to your enemies? Song Yu met his gaze directly. We gain the chance to turn enemies into allies. Your people are not evil, Your Majesty. You are simply trapped in a way of thinking that no longer works in a galaxy where humans exist. Explain, Vexmar commanded. Your entire military philosophy is based on overwhelming force and superior numbers, Song Yu continued. These tactics worked against species that fought the same way you do, but humans developed our warfare specifically to defeat larger, stronger enemies. Every weapon we build, every tactic we use, is designed to turn your advantages into weaknesses. She gestured to Commander Kang, who activated a holographic display showing human military doctrine. The Emperor and his council studied the information with growing understanding and horror. You see, Song Yu explained, we do not try to match your strength. We make your strength irrelevant. Your massive ships become easy targets for our precision weapons. Your overwhelming numbers mean nothing when our drones can outmaneuver and outthink your pilots. Your armor and shields were designed to stop the weapons other species use, not the weapons we invented specifically to kill you. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of realization. Everything the Vrex Empire had built was useless against human military technology. War Marshal Thekvar spoke first. You could have told us this before the battles began. Why did you let us waste so many lives learning it the hard way? We tried, Kang De replied sadly. At the Galactic Council, we offered to help defend against your expansion. We warned you that attacking human-protected worlds would lead to war. You chose not to listen. Emperor Vexmar leaned back on his throne, his ancient mind processing this new reality. What are your terms, humans? What price do you demand for our defeat? Song Yu's response surprised everyone in the chamber. We demand nothing, Your Majesty. We offer everything. I do not understand. Earth proposes a partnership, Song Yu explained. Your people are incredible warriors with a deep understanding of military strategy. Our people are excellent at adapting and improving existing systems. Together, we could create something better than either species could achieve. Alone, she activated another display, this one showing preliminary plans for joint human-Vrex military academies. We want to teach your warriors our methods not to make them weaker, but to make them more effective. In return, your experience in large-scale fleet operations could improve our own tactics. The War Marshal studied the plans with obvious interest. You would trust us with your military secrets? We would share them, Song Yu corrected. There is a difference. Trust must be earned, but we are willing to give you the chance to earn it. Emperor Vexmar was quiet for a long time, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber's dim lighting as he considered the offer. Finally, he spoke. Why? Your forces have proven they can destroy us whenever they choose. Why offer partnership instead of demanding surrender? Song Yu's answer would be remembered in Vrex history for generations to come. Because that is what makes us human, Your Majesty. We could destroy you, yes. But destruction creates nothing. Partnership creates the possibility of something better for both our peoples. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. The Vrex Empire conquered through fear and force. The human way is to build through cooperation and mutual benefit. We offer you the chance to be part of something greater than conquest. The negotiations that followed lasted for 3 days. The terms agreed upon were unlike any treaty in galactic history. Instead of punishment, the Vrex would receive assistance in transforming their society. Instead of reparations, they would contribute their military expertise to joint defense initiatives. Instead of occupation, they would become partners in a new kind of interstellar alliance. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Emperor Vexmar's words as he placed his seal on the treaty shocked every species that heard them. We sought to conquer the humans, and instead learned what true strength means. It is not the power to destroy, but the wisdom to build. The Vrex Empire formally requests to join the human sphere of protection, not as subjects but as allies who have finally learned the difference between conquest and cooperation. As Song Yu and her delegation prepared to leave Kroon Prime, War Marshal Thekvar approached her with a question that would define the new relationship between their species. Ambassador, When your people first arrived at the Galactic Council, you offered to help fight us. Even then, you were thinking about protecting others rather than conquering us. Is this truly how all humans think? Song Yu smiled as she boarded her shuttle. War Marshal, humans learned a long time ago that the strongest civilizations are built on cooperation, not conquest. We fight when we must, but we prefer to build. That is what makes us different from everyone else in this galaxy. In the shuttle. Lifted off, carrying the human delegation back to Earth and leaving behind a transformed empire that would never be the same. The age of Rex conquest was over. The age of Rex cooperation had begun. 6 months had passed since the Rex War ended, and the galaxy was a very different place. The Great Council Chamber of Nexus Prime had been expanded and redesigned to accommodate the new reality of galactic politics, where once only a few dozen species had held real power. Now hundreds of worlds participated in what had become known as the Terran Collective. President Lim J of Earth stood at the center of the transformed chamber, addressing the largest gathering of intelligent species in galactic history. Beside him stood War Commander Thek Kai, the former Vrex general who had become the Collective's military advisor. The sight of a human leader and a Vrex warrior working together had become the symbol of the new age. Friends and allies, President Lim began, his voice carrying clearly through the advanced translation systems. Today marks 6 months since the end of the last war of conquest in our galaxy. 6 months since we proved that cooperation is stronger than conflict. The assembled delegates represented a transformation that few had thought possible. The aquatic glub now worked alongside Vrex engineers on underwater cities. The crystalline shard had shared their harmonic technologies with human scientists, creating new forms of communication that spanned star systems instantly. Even the proud Korthak had joined the collective, their warrior traditions finding new purpose in protecting the innocent rather than conquering the weak. General Kang Day, now serving as the collective's military coordinator, stepped forward to present the security report. The numbers were impressive. 17 species had formally joined the human alliance, 43 more had signed protection agreements, and most importantly, not a single act of aggression had been recorded against any member world. The galaxy has learned a simple lesson, General Kang explained to the assembly. Attacking any member of the Terran Collective means facing all of us together. With humans coordinating defense strategies and our allies contributing their unique strengths, we have created the most effective military force in known space. But the real change was not just military. Admiral Li Bo, now promoted to Fleet Admiral and commanding mixed-species fleets, had revolutionized galactic defense. Vrex warriors served alongside human tacticians, learning precision and adaptability. Shard engineers worked with human designers to create ships that were both beautiful and deadly. Glub navigators plotted courses using human AI systems that could calculate hyperspace jumps with impossible accuracy. The transformation was most visible in the bridge crews of collective ships. Captain Kim Su's flagship, the Harmony's Edge, hosted officers from 7 different species. They had learned to work together so well that they moved like a single organism, each being contributing their species' natural abilities to the common goal of protection. The session's first major business was routine, welcoming 3 new species to the collective. The Neth, a race of peaceful traders, had requested protection after pirates began targeting their merchant convoys. The collective's response had been swift and decisive. Admiral Park Jin's task force had eliminated the pirate threat in a single day, destroying 47 raider ships without losing a single collective vessel. The message was clear, Admiral Jin reported to the assembly. Anyone who preys on peaceful beings will face the full might of our combined forces. The result has been a 93% reduction in piracy across the galaxy. As the president moved through the routine business of interstellar government, a tone sounded that brought instant silence to the chamber. It was the emergency alert, used only when the collective faced a threat that required immediate attention. Commander Ho Yun of Deep Space Monitoring appeared on the main display, her expression grim. Mr. President, we have a code black situation developing at the galactic edge. Long-range sensors have detected an approaching fleet of unknown configuration. The main display shifted to show sensor data from the galaxy's outer monitoring stations. What they revealed sent a chill through every being in the chamber. Massive ships were approaching from intergalactic space, their design unlike anything in the galactic database. Analysis indicates at least 10,000 vessels, Commander Ho continued. Their technology appears to be significantly more advanced than anything we have encountered. Preliminary reports suggest they have already consumed 17 galaxies in their path of advance. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter as delegates absorbed this information. The species that had felt safe under human protection suddenly faced the possibility that even the Terran collective might not be enough to stop this new threat. War Commander Thekikai studied the tactical data with professional interest. These ships are larger than anything the Vrex Empire ever built. Their energy signatures suggest weapon systems that could crack planets. How long do we have before they reach collective space? 6 months at their current rate of advance, Ho replied. They call themselves the Devourer Fleet, and their pattern suggests they consume all organic matter in the galaxies they invade before moving on to the next target. President Lim looked around the chamber at the faces of beings from hundreds of worlds. Some showed fear, others determination, but all of them looked to him and the human delegation for leadership. Admiral Jin, the president said calmly, what is your assessment of this threat? Jin stood and studied the data for several moments before responding. Mr. President, this is exactly the kind of challenge the collective was created to face. We have 6 months to prepare a defense that uses every advantage our alliance can provide. She activated a tactical display showing the galaxy's defensive networks. The Devourer fleet expects to find divided species fighting among themselves, just like they encountered in the 17 galaxies they have already consumed. Instead, they will face a united force that combines the tactical genius of humans with the unique abilities of all our allies. The Shard representative's crystal body resonated with harmonious tones. What role can our harmonic technologies play in this defense? Your harmonic frequencies can disrupt their communications and targeting systems, Admiral Li Bo answered from his position at the military briefing station. Combined with Glub stealth techniques and Vrex boarding expertise, we can create battle strategies they have never encountered. President Lim stood to address the full assembly. The Devourer fleet has conquered 17 galaxies because they have never faced united resistance. They destroy divided enemies one species at a time. We will show them what happens when an entire galaxy stands together. He turned to Admiral Jin with a nod. Fleet Admiral Park, you may begin preparations for Operation Galactic Shield. Use every resource the collective can provide. Hold nothing back. The transformation that followed was remarkable. Within hours, shipyards across 100 worlds were working at maximum capacity. Human tactical systems were integrated with alien technologies to create weapons that had never existed before. Vrex warriors trained alongside beings they had once considered enemies, learning new ways to fight as part of a truly united force. The most impressive development was the creation of the Grand Fleet, a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 15,000 ships from 37 different species, all under unified human command, but incorporating the best technologies and strategies each member world could contribute. 3 weeks before the Devourer fleet was scheduled to arrive, President Lim made a final address to the collective assembly. His words would be remembered for generations. 6 months ago, we were dozens of separate species living in fear of each other. Today, we stand as one voice, one people, one unbreakable force. The Devourer fleet thinks they are coming to consume another helpless galaxy. They are wrong. Paused, looking around the chamber at representatives who had become true allies. They will discover what the Vrex Empire learned, that facing humans in battle means facing death itself. But more than that, they will learn that we no longer fight alone. Every species in this galaxy now stands behind the human way of war. The final weeks of preparation saw miracles of cooperation. Korthak engineers worked with human designers to create boarding pods that could penetrate any known armor. Yulani scientists shared their biotechnology to develop weapons that could disrupt organic ship components. Even the smallest species contributed something vital to the defense effort. When the Devourer fleet finally arrived at the galaxy's edge, they found something they had never encountered before. Instead of scattered, frightened civilizations, they faced a coordinated defense network that spanned thousands of star systems. The first contact battle took place at the remote system of Kepler 438, chosen specifically because it was far from any populated worlds. Admiral Jin commanded the Grand Fleet from the massive battleship Unity's Promise, its bridge staffed by officers from 12 different species working in perfect harmony. Enemy fleet composition confirmed, reported Captain Nam Gil from his tower. Sensor station. 10,600 vessels, average length 4 kilometers each. They are advancing in standard Devourer formation, and they have no idea what they're about to face, added War Commander Thekkai with grim satisfaction. Admiral, the collective forces are ready to implement the swarm protocol on a galactic scale. What followed was not just a battle, but a masterpiece of coordinated warfare.